was another enlightening, engaging, and empowering Nigeria Fintech Week. The 2023 edition, which discussed the theme Fintech, Resilience, Innovation, and Diversification, returned back to the basics to set the pace for key issues that will strengthen the industry's sustainability. At the opening session and first day of the conference, the remarks of the president of the Fintech Association of Nigeria and goodwill messages from the Africa Development Bank, Central Bank of Nigeria, and United States of America Embassy emphasized the value of the fintech ecosystem to economic growth and development.
The Fintech NGR, that's the Association of Fintechs in Nigeria, will continue with our Fintech Week. We'll continue to deepen relationships across the board and with regulators, co-create, co-innovate, build capacity. I have no doubt that the digitization of all sectors of our economy is a precursor to the further growth of our economy. And as Fintech NGR, we will continue to play an active and major role in growing the digital economy, creating jobs, driving socio-economic development, sustainable wealth creation, and repositioning Nigeria as the center of innovation.
The Nigeria Fintech Week, therefore, provides a robust platform for strengthening our partnerships to promote digital innovation in the fintech ecosystem, as well as build resilience for scalable and sustainable impacts. The African Development Bank is strongly committed to this partnership with a view to accelerate Nigeria and the African continent's transition into the digital future.
I like to say we need to look at international regulations. It's also very important. You are not just operating in Nigeria, you are operating around the world. We have so many Nigerian fintechs today that have their footprints in African countries. And what usually happens, when anything happens there, they come back to us and say, your company who is operating in our country has committed some infraction. So at the end of the day, we have a lot of stories, we have a lot of issues that we have to contend with in trying to manage your relationship in other countries. So anytime you go into a country to set up, which we encourage, always be very mindful of the domestic regulations there, because those domestic regulations will actually superimpose whatever other international regulations that you are bringing to those countries. So I'd like to say thank you very much and let everybody enjoy the discussion for the day. Thank you.
Why do we care about this investment? Why do we care about fintech? And it's basically two things. First of all, you're bringing people into the banking system. You're doing things to transform the entire continent. And that speaks directly to what we're trying to do on the continent in trying to build a digital transformation together with our partners in Africa. Anyone who has ever heard me speak has heard me say this, because I say it every time I speak. We often used to say, we need African solutions to African problems. You've heard that? Yeah? I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong because we need African solutions to global problems. We need to bring the solutions that you're developing to emerging markets and markets around the world. The problems that we face are too big to be focused on one continent. They're too big that we have to think about them just myopically. Oh, Africa, you have these problems, you go fix them. We need to be working together to address things like climate change, banking the unbanked, digital access together.
The rich panel sessions from risk management and resilience, strategies for building compliant organizations to keynotes on navigating towards a smarter fintech alongside product pitches provided rich perspectives on the industry.
Talent retention is very pivotal to any fintech growth if you want to cultivate that growth. So the kind of things that is required to ensure that you have those talent, it has to be something that is continuous. You have to continuously train, but not just bringing in the talent. It's great to bring in the talent, but the ability to ensure that those talents become really, really important.
So for us, it's about having those things in place, never taking for granted anybody's comment. Again, some customers have real stories, they have real issues. Don't let it go out of hand before you respond.
For the second day, the presentations on fail fast, learn faster, embracing failure as a path to success, and the future of payment, reimagining artificial intelligence, brought a new perspective on how fintechs are adapting to socioeconomic changes.
When we think about innovation or talk about innovation, these are the things we think about, that innovation happens without failure. Why? Because many times we're inward thinking, we're just thinking about our own experiences. Even in this room, I know there are veterans here who can share with us dimensions of failures in their businesses. They didn't become overnight success just because they got it right the first time. No, that wasn't what happened. They just kept at it. And so we need to know that the only people who don't make mistakes are those who don't do anything. By virtue of being here this morning, you've done something, and that says that you're on the path to doing something differently. Coming to be part of the ecosystem here and see what others are doing differently. So the only people who don't fail are those who don't do anything. If you don't fail occasionally, it's a self-check. It's a self-test. Maybe you're not trying enough. If you don't fail occasionally, everything goes on. Maybe you are not trying enough. So it should be wired that some things will need to go wrong for us to learn from. And one critical example of that is there's no textbook for parenting. So there's no perfect parents. You learn on the way because the children will just never be the same. The same way the business environment, no matter the way the variables are constant for everybody, the way you're going to relate to those variables as a business will be different from the way someone else relates with it. So if you don't fail occasionally, it just may be time to check. Are you really trying hard enough? You learn less if nothing is learned from failure. And what does that mean? You learn more when you learn from failure. If everything works well, that means you probably have 10 ways of getting it right. And you're missing out on the 90,990 other ways that Edison learned from. So there's opportunity to learn a great deal more from your failure and from the failure of others.
On the third and final day of the 2023 Nigeria Fintech Week, the focus was on some of the key sectors of the economy as panelists discussed leveraging insurtech for inclusion and empowerment, digitizing agricultural value chain, the way forward, transport tech, how fintech is revolutionizing transportation and logistics.
I would say ideally it is really their reach. You know, with traditional insurance, their method is typically agent-driven, and that restricts them to their area of operation. So in so saying, bringing in, you know, this KYC engine that we have a logistics engine that is spread across the nation. We have over 40,000 agents in every local government in the country. So in using that kind of service, we have the ability to market and create awareness in different regions and enable those in the traditional insurance sector to reach a wider range of customers that ideally they would miss out on using their traditional method of engagement. I also think going into the accessibility in terms of affordability and customization, that's another issue that a lot of the traditional insurance providers face. Access to microinsurance is limited, again, just based on their region. So, that's those are the key issues and critical areas that I see when we engage traditional insurance.
Taking bits and pieces of technology to attack specific problems in the chain of the entire insurance value proposition is how we are actually driving towards the accessibility, because every single step contributes towards accessibility at the end of the day.
The consumers of today have a different orientation. They are digital natives. So therefore, for you to even try to win with any form of product, and we're not just talking technology product, across any industry, including automobiles, but since we're talking fintech, we can stay here. You must leverage, you must appreciate that the appetite of your consumer in this generation has changed. And so for you to lead with products, you must come from that customer perspective. It must be inborn. You must embed it in your DNA. Now, I'll say, to make it easy, there are 3 things that you consider for a leading product. You consider the functionality, you consider the accessibility, and you consider the emotional impact or emotional experience. The functionality is, how does it work? You just enter and do this. If it's an app, or if it's a car, or even if it's whatever product it is, what is the functionality? Now, that is the base. That is what gives you a foot into the door. You must have the basic functions.
So what we did at FX is, across the country, we situated our warehouses closer to the farmer through our field extension officers. We identify, map them, put a warehouse very close to them. The idea is that with a bike, they are able to get their goods from the farm to the warehouse. And when they get to the warehouse, they issue a warehouse receipt where they can keep with us or sell directly to us. But furthermore into this conversation, I'll talk about our exchange platform. Thank God the Security and Exchange Commission is here. We are the first private sector company to be licensed to trade commodities as an exchange. And what that does is that the prices that the farmers would never see, they have access to it. They know a farmer can simply just go into the COMEX platform, look at the trading price of commodities, and is empowered with that price. So whether they are selling to us or selling to anybody in the market, they have a price gap. And that significantly had helped them to improve their production. That had helped them to even incentivize them. Some of the services that we are also been able to render to them is our input financing programs, where now that they know that where they will sell their goods is not the problem. Since market access is no more a challenge, they can focus directly and say, I can expand the size of my land and increase my production. And that's one of the ways we have been supporting the small-scale farmers in Nigeria.
That the NHIA Act and the guidelines and all of the stuff around it, there's an inordinate focus on affordable health care. So when we are talking about universal health coverage, it goes beyond financing healthcare. But because it has been a challenge, we have now done a complete turnaround and just focused completely on health insurance, affordable health care, forgetting that, so for instance, if a man somewhere in the hinterlands of Ayetoro has health insurance and good health insurance, but there's no delivery, so there's no doctor, there's no access to medication, what good is that health insurance to him? So the digital health strategy is one thing that has been forgotten, and that needs to come back and be placed side by side with this strategy, with this act, for us to then be able to get a chance at actually getting any results.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've done is we've started working with state governments, as a matter of fact. So working with 2 state governments around helping them digitize their state health insurance processes around onboarding, distributing their plans, and also managing patients within a very affordable channel. So again, community pharmacies, patent medicine vendors. In fact, we want to put Choose are community health extension workers. We want to put them on bikes, give them bags to actually go into the hinterlands to provide care. Because really, if we want to get to people that are at that level, that's where we need to be going.
It also featured the launch of the Nigeria Fintech Cloud White Paper and a memorandum of understanding with Mtech Solutions on the Central Bank of Nigeria's regulatory sandbox.
Today is my great honor to launch this Nigeria Fintech Cloud Adoption White Paper with Fintech NGR together. It's free and you can download it from our website. Well, you can scan the QR code by your phone. So with this kind of white paper, you can have another choice to get better cost-effective cloud service from Huawei Cloud. And you can also enjoy local support cloud service from Huawei Cloud. And you can also enjoy another kind of ecosystem from China. Yes. So, everybody, let's cheers. We launch this for you, okay?
Some of the experts and stakeholders spoke on the prospects ahead for the fintech industry in Nigeria.
When we set out building our business, we had one vision: to connect the world, make sure people can be able to send payments from country A to country B, to build an inclusive economy for everyone in the world. How prepared are we for Africa? We are very prepared. We actually started building our network in Africa 7 years ago. By now, we have about 100 partnerships we are connected to all the mobile wallets, M-Pesa, Airtel, MTN, Orange directly. We are connected to all the big regional banks, EcoBank, Access Bank, Equity, KCB, Standard Bank. We are heavily invested in building our infrastructure in Africa because we firmly believe this is where the future is. 1.4 billion people, 54 countries, the youngest continent when it comes to the workforce. This is where the biggest opportunity is, and this is home. We are going to continue to invest and build our infrastructure. You asked about PAPS. PAPS is built on, I would want to believe, in a similar vision to build a connected Africa continent to allow trade. I think we are not competing in a sense that, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we need to enlarge the ecosystem. We need to partner so that we can make sure we are all building together a more efficient ecosystem to benefit the consumers.
I mean, we've been wanting to get telcos more involved in financial services, and the CBN listened, and they came out with the payment service banks, right? So we have more. We have Money Master, all of that. So there's been progress, but there still needs to be more. And NCC, in conjunction with CBN, and even the telcos and private sector partners, we need to sit down and see what can we do about the costs of USSD, right? As soon as you dial some codes, you get charged a session. So we should bear that cost. It's going to be the consumer. It's going to be the operator. If the cost is too high for the operator, does it make it a commercially viable venture? So again, we all need to sit down to think about how to make it commercially viable and cost effective. Or if we don't want to do that, then perhaps we need to figure out a vehicle. Are we going to make it a non-government or a non-profit type endeavor? Maybe we'll take it as CSR, right? If you look at what happened with BVN, for example, the banks invested a lot of money to make that infrastructure in conjunction with CBN and NIPS. So maybe it's one of those things we might just take on as a mission to say, you know what, maybe we're not making money from this, but will it help the ecosystem in the long run? Maybe we should make this happen as a sort of investment in the foundation of the financial system and not profit from it now, maybe in the years to come. So perhaps that's a model we could consider.
First of all, Nigeria is taking very good steps on improving the future of data in the country. Of course, there are many priorities. First of all, there needs to be better enforcement of open banking policies, which means some data to be open to the public for usage from fintechs, from startups, from other entities. So more open banking policies, number one. Number two, also stronger data security. Cybersecurity is sometimes undermined. This is a key risk globally. Number three, overall better data infrastructure, meaning that InterSwitch has done a very good job. They are building also payment rails, and this is growing further. But there is more need and investment need to be done for good infrastructure. And number four, better data training as well in education levels, in IT level, in any other levels as well. So these are the four areas where I think that can be done in a policy level to improve data future for Nigeria.
I think in Africa, the drive is for economic inclusion and financial inclusion, because from the latest numbers, it's significant. Substantial. Over 80% of transactions in Africa are still done by cash. So huge opportunity for technology to transform that landscape. But there are a lot of challenges. Not only is it largely a cash-based economy, there is issue of regulations. The regulations need to be updated, they need to be reviewed to support a thriving fintech ecosystem. There is need for the infrastructure to be developed. Something like a robust network system, internet system. A 5th generation internet, 5G internet facility, for instance, road networks, electricity, because you cannot use internet if there is no electricity, road networks. So there is the infrastructure side to it. There is the talent side to it as well. In Nigeria, you have the Jagba syndrome. A lot of talented, skilled people are living in Africa. So how do we manage all of that? So what we do at the African Fintech Network is to encourage the ecosystem to come together to respond collectively to these challenges. We get regulators to sit with fintech and discuss how can regulations be better updated, be better, tweaked to respond to the ecosystem. We talk to investors, we create awareness that there is need for local investors, to develop that culture of investing in African tech, or generally to invest in Africa. So we promote what we call homegrown capital for African tech. We collaborate, therefore, with regulators. We collaborate with government institutions via Fintech Association. So we have about 40 fintech groups or associations across the continent, from Nigeria here to South Africa, Egypt, etc. So we work through those fintech associations to ensure that the ecosystem develop holistically.
Nigeria's fintech industry has witnessed phenomenal growth, with over 250 firms, over 3 unicorns, and 6,000 startups. It remains the biggest drive of investment into the country, from $53 million in 2017 to over $1.5 billion in 2022. With these strides, the fintech industry has a unique opportunity to be an agent of economic transformation, deepening financial inclusion and revolutionizing sectors like transportation, health, agriculture, education, insurance, and real estate. The future is collaboration, resilience, innovation, and diversification.